What's up, guys? Welcome to my first Lake Placid review, and obviously we're starting with the classic released in 1999. Now this is a Steve Miner film, and Steve Miner is actually a name that's been popping up a lot randomly. I knew he directed Friday the 13th Part 2 and 3, and that's basically where the name sounds most familiar, but recently I watched one of the remakes, or reimaginings, whatever you want to call it, of Day of the Dead, and he directed that as well. And then I popped this on and it said Steve Miner again, and I'm like, holy shit, how many cult films did this guy direct? So I looked him up. He directed Halloween H2O as well, and he also directed House, which I didn't even know. I've never seen House from 1985, I believe, but apparently he did that too. So he's definitely into the horror slasher, not underground, but cult cinema for sure. And this is one of his monster movie debuts, unless you consider zombies monsters. But regardless, this has a pretty good cast actually. It has Bill Pullman, who's in a shit ton of things. Bill Pullman is just that face that does a lot. He definitely has a variety of films that he likes to do. We've got Bridget Fonda, who I only know from Kiss of the Dragon. I don't know of many other things that she's done after that. Kiss of the Dragon and this is the only thing I really know her from. Also, I should mention that this is, I think, my third time watching this film, if I'm not mistaken. I haven't seen it too many times, but I definitely have had to pick up the Scream Factory release of it, and I collected the rest specifically for this review series. That some of them I bought well over 2 months ago, and I've been saving it for this. So now that we're done 31 Days of Horror, we can jump right in. And then we've got Betty White in here, who almost makes a cameo, I would say, with the performance that she gives. And we've got Brendan Gleeson, who, I should have looked this up. I don't know if he's British or Irish or something else, but he's definitely from the UK, and he's doing an American accent in here, and it's the only film I've ever seen him in where he's doing an American accent. But he's good as well. So, a movie about a giant killer crocodile. What can be said about this? I mean, how much can you say about a movie about a giant killer crocodile? It definitely gave me a lot of Anaconda vibes. Anaconda was the first film I actually saw in theaters, and it had those vibes. I'd say Anaconda was a little bit more seriously taken. This one definitely plays for the goofs a little bit more, although it's a 50-50 between the seriousness and the goofiness. But I'd say the way the film is shot and directed and handled, I'd say it reminded me a lot of Anaconda, as well as a film that I watched recently called Shark Night, with the dude that played Luke in the OC, and Joel David Moore in it as well. More of still a B-movie shark film, but a little bit more of a higher budget than your average, Sharknado kind of thing. But story-wise, we've got this woman named Kelly. She's a paleontologist at a museum, and she is apparently dating her boss. As soon as he walks into the room, you think he's going to be like that Ferris Bueller teacher kind of thing. He kind of has that look. You think this guy's just going to be the annoying dick boss, right? Oh, apparently she's dating him. They don't seem like they have any chemistry whatsoever. He does not seem like the type of guy that she would be after. But, lo and behold, they were dating. It turns out that he was sleeping with another coworker who comes in and gives this whole, like, oh, I'm sorry speech, but not, like, sympathetic whatsoever. She's just like, oh, things happen. The heart wants what they want, right? And Kelly's just like, fuck you. So, what happens is the boss sends Kelly down to Maine and wants her to go down there to check out a tooth that was found in a body, because before this all happens, the film opens with not a shark attack, a crocodile attack, or attack of something, because they don't know what it is at this point. And this guy gets attacked underwater. This is where we're introduced to Brendan Gleeson's character as well. Keogh, I think his last name is Hank Keogh, but usually or Co, or whatever you want to call it. That's his last name, Keough, however you pronounce that. But we'll just call him Hank to keep it simple. So Hank was on a boat with this guy, and this guy got attacked and mauled and killed. And Kelly, being the paleontologist that she is sent down to check out this tooth. But she puts two and two together, and she realizes that the boss is sending her down because to keep her away from, this situation that's going down where he was unfaithful, and this woman don't want her around kind of thing. So they're finding an excuse to get rid of her kind of thing. So she goes down to Maine. She's very city girl. So she doesn't, she wants to prove herself though, and it's kind of funny how she's so determined to join this crew of like finding this animal and stuff like that. But she's so at the same time, you can tell that like that's not her scene kind of thing. And the thing she says, it's funny. She's Bill Pullman's character Jack keeps saying like, he doesn't want to take her on the expedition. He doesn't want to take her onto this this lake and stuff like that. Like she's a small city girl. Like it's not the environment for her. And he keeps calling her ma'am, and she's like, "If you call me ma'am one more time, I'll sue you." And with today's laws, it's possible. And I'm thinking, okay, this is 1999, and this sounds very much like today. That's exactly what a woman would say today. It's like, "Call me ma'am one more time, and I'll sue you." But it's funny, I'm like, wow, this film is actually, I'm like, even then, there was the whole, like, sensitivity, but, like, today it's just so apparent, and it's funny to see this film made in 1999, and it's, like, the same thing. It's, like, times weren't that different back then. Not that it was that long ago, it's, like, 20 years, whatever. So that was funny, and she insists on coming along and all that. There is a scene too where she sees the body, and the body is literally just half a body, so the entire torso down is completely removed, and it's just the upper half of the body on the gurney. I found that funny too, and her reaction to it. So it's said that there's like nobody lives on this lake, first of all. Also, I'm surprised actually. I thought originally this took place like Louisiana or something like that, but because I hadn't seen this film in a while. But Maine, it's funny that it took place in Maine because first of all, there's no crocodiles in Maine, and actually that goes on to the plot of the story. It's like, what's a crocodile doing in Maine kind of thing. But Maine was an interesting setting for this film, for sure. We're introduced to Betty White's character named Mrs. Bickerman, and she is the meat and potatoes of this story, I'm telling you. Because nobody lives around this lake, and this lake is completely isolated except for this old couple that lives right on the lake. And Mrs. Bickerman is has a husband that's deceased for 2 years, and she starts to tell the authorities and Jack and Hank, the police officer, that she killed her husband because apparently he was so sick and he was in and out of coherent and incoherent moments, and he refused to go to the hospital, that in one coherent moment he asked her to put him out of his misery, and she's like, "Okay, so I just hit him in the head with a skillet and that was that. I just buried him over there. You can go check if you want." This woman's crazy. She has a potty mouth, and hearing Betty White swear is just priceless. Like, it's worth the price of admission just for that, because when do you hear an old lady swear, let alone Betty White? Pretty, like, obviously they cast her just to be like, okay, you're gonna be this little sweet potty mouthed old lady, and that's your role. She's like, all right, let's do it. So there's a point where they want this wildlife team to come in, and also other authorities, but they won't unless there's confirmation of this animal existing. Now they think it's a crocodile because the tooth ends up being reptilian, but there's no confirmation on what it is or what happened. So they're trying to basically search for it to get confirmation, and that's where the plot goes for a bit. Jack keeps asking Kelly what she's doing there because, it's a small city girl. what's her purpose here? Like, she already saw the tooth, her job is complete. Why doesn't she just go, back into town and chill? And she's like, well, she mentioned she doesn't want to go back because of the ex situation, and she's liking it there, and she really wants to be involved with this. So they kind of start forming a chemistry, Jack and her, and it works because of her situation, and it works because Jack is, I mean, first of all, Kelly's a pretty girl, and second of all, Jack is kind of intrigued on her motivation to all this. There's a really cool boat flip where like whatever flips the canoe and then everybody flies off of it, but then nothing's around. Like there's no animal, they don't see it yet. It's a good soundtrack in here too. I liked when they dropped "It's Not Unusual" by Tom Jones. I love that song. It's not unusual to have fun with anyone. I was like, that's a good choice. Comes out of nowhere, but that's a good choice for a soundtrack for sure. There's a great decapitation where the croc just literally chops this guy's head clean, and then of course the Hank and Jack don't want to tell the authorities anything about it so that it doesn't cause an alarm. Stupidest idea ever, but that's what they decide. And we're also introduced to this other character named Hector. Hector is also a piece of gold when it comes to this film. Hector is a crocodile expert pretty much, and he has a lot of experience dealing with crocodiles, and he's dealt with a bunch of situations involving them. This guy is the most socially awkward man that there is. His banter with Hank is genius because they hate each other, and it's hilarious how much they get on each other's nerves. Hector is a genius on setting traps, and Hank is always getting caught in them. It's like, it's not slapstick, but it's really comedic the way they portray that, and just the shit Hector says. Hector is so funny. There's one time where right after the head decapitation, he's trying to like give his condolences to Hank, and he's just being an idiot about it because he doesn't know how to talk to humans. Like, it seems like he knows how to talk to crocodiles more than humans. And he's talking about this reoccurring dream that he had where he loses his head, and in his dream he could see his body walking around from his head on the floor, and then his body's like bumping into things, and then he says in the dream his parents wouldn't let him in the house because they had new lamps and he kept like knocking them over, and Hank is just staring at him like, my buddy just died, right? Got his head lost. Fucking Hank, man. Hector. Fucking Hector. He's great. There's a scene where the croc completely mauls a bear, and this is where you actually start to see the crocodile itself. They do CGI and they do practical. You can tell there's some practical in here, but there's a lot of CGI. And for the CGI is not bad in this one. They do a pretty good job making that crocodile look decently real with the CGI that they use. I was very impressed with it. Now, again, there's some scenes that you can tell that they probably used miniatures or some kind of practical effect, like they built the croc in certain places, but obviously they're going to have to use CGI, and they did an amazing job with the CGI. So I really, really like that. Mrs. Bickerman, Betty White's character, calls Hank Officer Fuckmeat, because that's something I'm going to be using from now on. I'm going to be calling people fuckmeats. There's a scene where the crocodile gets like face to face with Hector, and Hector is, I found that cool, like just how close the croc gets and just stares and doesn't even do anything. Pretty intense shit. And then by the end, in the third act, they decide that they want to trap the crocodile instead of kill the crocodile. This crocodile is also pretty much Mrs. Bickerman's pet, because, and this is why she actually lied, because the husband actually got eaten accidentally by the crocodile. She didn't actually kill him. That was a lie. But she didn't want to tell any of the authorities because she knew that the authorities would immediately want to come in and destroy this crocodile. And it was basically her pet. Like, she would feed him cows and shit. Like, she would take cows, and the authorities, like Hank and Jack, eventually find this out, that she's, keeping this crocodile as a pet kind of thing. Regardless, they want to keep it because this thing is over 30 feet long and it's could be researched a lot. And this is obviously Hector's idea. But Jane Fonda's character, Kelly, also goes along with it too. Jack is the only one who's very skeptical about this, but eventually they do decide to trap it and pump it full of drugs and kill it, or not kill it, keep it instead of kill it. But they want to trap it. At the end, I like the what they did instead of just going what do you call it, like tropey and what you would expect to happen and just put a net over or whatnot. When the helicopter, or there's a helicopter over the crocodile and it makes an attack towards the helicopter because they're trying to bait it with a cow that's hanging off of the helicopter, and the helicopter ends up crashing in the water. Eventually the croc puts its head through the helicopter doors and gets itself stuck in that while slowly passing out because of all the tranquilizers that was pumped into it. And eventually it like jumps its way to shore, and it's really intense the way that how like high the crocodile is jumping with this chopper like attached to it, and how much strength this croc has, and it eventually makes it just on shore before it passes out, where then they're just making the decision to either blow it up or keep it, and they're having that argument back and forth, and eventually obviously they decide to, Bill Pullman has like a trick, like he tricks the audience where you think that he's going to grab the gun and just put it out of its existence, and then he shoots the gun, but the gun ends up being a tranquilizer instead of a cannon. So that's when you know that he compromised and made the decision to actually keep the crocodile living and send it off to Oregon, which I have no idea how, because at the end of the film it shows footage of them shipping the crocodile in this, like what do they call those when a truck's going and it's escorted by a bunch of cars, a heavy load or something like that. Fucking thing is like 30 feet long on this massive truck, and it's tied down and it's just driving down the highway. How they're going to transport a crocodile from Maine to Oregon, first of all with it not getting loose, and second of all with it staying alive, is beyond me. But the film ends with that, and it also ends with Mrs. Bickerman feeding little tiny ass crocodiles, like 6 or 7 of them. She's feeding them bread like you would feed friggin' ducks. So Mrs. Bickerman, she likes her crocodiles, and she's gonna have like 6 or 7 30-footers in a few years, obviously, with how that film ended. So, and then it ends with Bob Marley too. The what's that song called? Is this love? Is this love? Is this love? Is this love that I'm feeling? While she's feeding the crocodiles, it's pretty funny. So that's Lake Placid. I really didn't want this to go like over 20 minutes, but we're almost there. It's a lot to say about a film about a killer crocodile. Scream Factory, I wanted to get this with a slip, but they weren't available. So, but it comes with new interviews with a lot of people: Steve Miner, Bill Pullman, and the director of photography, and interviews with the special effects team, which should be cool, and Blu-ray, can't beat that. And yeah, it was nice to see this again in a while, and I had a good time with it. It's one of the better creature features. It's one of the better B-movie popcorn creature features that you can get. Like, some of them just you can't even watch because of the CGI and how terrible it is. I mean, I do like some, like I do like friggin' Sharktopus. That's one of my favorites, even though the CGI is horrendous. But fucking Sharktopus. So this is not like that. This actually took a lot more effort. So I dig that. But anyways, that's all I got for Lake Placid. I'm going to be reviewing them all. So I got them all, and I'm going to be doing them all. Subscribe to Morgan Film Fan if you like to listen to my voice, or if you like my film reviews. Check them all out, and I'll be back for more. So stay tuned and cheers.